Looks like we're live. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We've got a good group of people today to talk about things that are going on in the city of Westbrook as far as its response to the coronavirus. I'll quickly go through my recent announcement. I'm not going to read it word for word as I have in the past, but I'm going to talk about some of the changes that we've made as the city continues to respond to this crisis. And we thank everybody for joining us today, and we'll go through everyone that's joining us in a moment. But yesterday, Governor Mills provided some new orders and recommendations that we are always meeting regularly to adapt to. And yesterday, the state had confirmed up to 118 cases. Again, most of which are in Cumberland County. I think we're up over a little bit more today. Let me just see what the recent number is today. It looks like they're up to 142, with 4 of those cases actually being city residents who are appropriately being treated. And we'll first, before we get into some of the details, in a moment, we'll talk to Fire Chief Andrew Turcott, who's also our city's health officer, and we'll have him update us from a health perspective, and he's got to run to get going to continue to serve the community and stay up to date on the things that are happening. But just some of the stuff that we continue to be in communication about and continue to make changes. As most people know, on March 15th, as mayor, I declared a state of emergency in the city of Westbrook, and then that was renewed by the city council in a virtual meeting that we held on March 19th. All other orders that I've declared as part of the state of emergency have been outlined in previous announcements and are all available on our city webpage. If you just go to westbrookmaine.com and click the top link, it brings you right to our coronavirus specific page. And so definitely check that out for all the previous things. So some of the recent orders that I've made since our last time getting together is we've suspended all towing and ticketing of vehicles as part of our snow emergency ordinances. We had that inquiry for our last Facebook Live last week. And so we appreciate everyone's willingness to try to comply with those ordinances when and wherever possible and to allow our snow removal folks, but we weren't going to be ticketing or towing anyone. And we appreciate everyone's willingness to try to work with us on that as well going forward. But we don't want to give anyone any unnecessary burdens during this difficult time with a towed vehicle or a ticket. And we thank you for our public services staff who actually suggested that and working through. As far as our downtown parking lots, we'll work to try to get those abandoned motor vehicles cleared another way as possible in the future. We also, since then, I enacted a human resource policy and procedure called the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and that is in conjunction with the United States Congress in adjustments that they've made to the Family Medical Leave Act. And so that is now as part of our city policies and procedures. And then in conjunction with the Portland Water District, we decided to waive all fees and interest on late sewer payments that go out with water bills as part of the Portland Water District. If anyone is struggling to pay their water and sewer bill due to a loss of job, we will be waiving any fees and interest on those for the time being. So definitely willing to work with people on those, given that the city sewer is a city department. We joined forces with the Portland Water District on that. And then yesterday, Governor Mills issued an executive order. She asked that all non-essential businesses and operations close their physical locations that are public facing, meaning those that allow customer, vendor, or other in-person contact. The order also closes non-essential business sites that require more than 10 workers to convene in a space where a physical distancing is not possible. Non-essential businesses and operations may continue activities that do not involve these types of in-person contact and in-person contact and convening. And then businesses should also facilitate the maximum number of employees being able to work remotely. This order was effective today at 12:01 a.m. and extends for a period of 14 days through April 8th at 12 a.m. From a city perspective, we had already been making changes to support these orders while also keeping essential functions of our government working. Our public services staff is all operating on different shifts now. They're not gathering for lunch. They're operating in separate vehicles to be able to continue to maintain the city streets and continue to operate. Our City Hall staff is now more on a skeleton crew here at City Hall, and we have the ability to work in different offices as much as possible, which allows for the appropriate social distancing, but we're looking to bring our staff that's working in the physical building down quite a bit in support of Governor Mills' order, and we would encourage other businesses in Westbrook who are non-essential to do the same. I think one of the great things that I feel like Westbrook residents have been doing is been working to follow the orders of the governor and the state, as well as the orders that we've subsequently made in support of her efforts. We here in the city of Westbrook are truly relying upon the state government and the state CDC director, Dr. Shah, to provide us the appropriate guidance as far as these significant mandates. We've had a lot of inquiries regarding the city of Portland's mandate for folks to shelter in place. We are fairly confident that most of the residents in Westbrook are already doing that based on what we've seen, and people are just doing their best to get the supplies they need and support local businesses with takeout and delivery orders. So we appreciate everyone's work to try to maintain that, and therefore that's why the city of Westbrook did not decide the same as Portland to cause everybody to shelter in place. We truly will be relying upon our state and federal guidance, state and federal leaders for guidance in those areas, and we hope everyone understands. But as you'll be able to see, I think a lot of our businesses have already been doing this, working remotely. Downtown parking lots are empty and clear. Our large employers such as IDEX and Acadia Insurance and industrial park businesses, they all have minimal staff in their parking lots, so they're already complying with this order in advance of Governor Mills' order. And Chief Turcotte will speak momentarily to the fact that we haven't had a lot of community spread. Some of the cases that we have are isolated here in Westbrook, and he'll speak to a little bit more on that. And as part of this order, we've been trying to make these decisions in a timely manner as possible and support the governor and her mandates. And so we've really tried to align ourselves with them and do that as much as possible. So right now we do not have a shelter-in-place order in the city of Westbrook, and we will continue to seek guidance from Governor Mills and the CDC on that, and we will let everyone know as that changes. So some of the things we previously announced was the Westbrook's takeout and delivery support effort and contest to support local businesses. Details are available on our website and social media. We encourage businesses to better protect both customers and employees. And that is something in addition to Governor Mills' order, we talked about last week. If you have a takeout food business, try to limit the amount of people that are in the business getting takeout. Try to do curbside delivery where possible. And if you're not able to do curbside delivery, try to just encourage smaller amounts of people to come in the store and form a line. And customers and residents, you can help businesses with this effort by, if you show up at a store and it's full of people, start a line on the outside just to try to protect everyone's safety and maintain the appropriate physical distancing. And Dan Stevenson will speak more about the business efforts that we have. And then also Superintendent Dr. Lancia is joining us today, and he'll speak more about what the schools are doing. But they previously announced that they closed until April 27th, and they also have more details regarding their response. Just to update, in addition to my letter, we are meeting, the Greater Portland Council of Governments is coordinating a meeting of the Metro Coalition, which is 7 area towns and cities in the Greater Portland region. And we're going to be really working to try to have a more regionalized approach to some of these things as going forward, and we'll see what we're able to orchestrate in that area. But again, this situation is constantly evolving and decision making. Most of us feel like we've been made months, plural, worth of decisions in a matter of days. So we appreciate everyone's flexibility to bear with us during this. So that's most of the things that I had to specifically announce. Just a reminder, as part of this Facebook Live and as part of this Zoom, you do have the ability to submit questions and answers, and we'll do our best to answer those live and on the screen as much as possible. And then also, if you have Facebook Live questions, those will be submitted to us to be able to try to answer live. And we'll try to do those as much as possible. We'll take all the questions that people have. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Turcotte, who's joining us on the phone to tell us a little bit more about the response from a medical and public safety perspective. Chief, go ahead.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Foley, for providing these important and critical updates for our citizens. And I also want to thank the other panelists who are here today. I want to provide everyone with some updates specific to COVID-19. Currently, globally, there have been just under 450,000 confirmed cases and just under 20,000 fatalities associated with this virus. In the U.S. alone, we are now at 59,502 confirmed cases with 804 confirmed deaths. In the state of Maine, as the mayor just alluded to, at present there are 142 cases, an increase from the 118 that we saw yesterday, that were reported by the Maine CDC. The majority of these cases reside in Cumberland County, and we have, as Mayor Foley stated, 4 confirmed cases here in Westbrook. 2 of those cases are within a congregate setting, and the other 2 cases are in remote locations. We continue to work with all the congregate care settings to include nursing homes, senior housing, and Westbrook Housing to provide education surrounding COVID-19 best practices in an effort to prevent community spread. The explosion of new cases here in Maine, in the U.S. and globally, are expected to continue in the days ahead. Remember, back in early March, we had just 70 cases in the U.S., and today we are just shy of 60,000 cases. So the growth and the transmission capabilities are tremendous. And it is imperative that everyone follows the CDC guidelines. We also understand that there is a lot of fear and anxiety surrounding this virus. The city has taken a lot of proactive measures in an effort to keep all of you, our residents, safe, which is why we ask that you continue to follow the guidelines set forth by CDC, and that if you do that, the transmission will slow and ultimately help to flatten the curve. As you also all know, and I cannot stress this enough, social distancing is key to reducing community spread. Hand hygiene and properly washing your hands with soap and water for a minimum of 20 seconds or using an alcohol-based foam or gel is also crucial to minimizing the spread of this virus. Also, Maine now meets CDC's criteria for moderate level of community transmission. This means that widespread or sustained transmission with a high likelihood or confirmed exposure within communal settings with the potential for rapid increase in suspected cases will occur. To preserve Maine's specimen collection and testing supplies for patients who may develop severe COVID-19 illnesses in the coming weeks and months, the Maine laboratories will prioritize testing to high-risk individuals. This means that individuals will be tested based on their symptoms to include fever or respiratory symptoms, and they must fall into the following categories: individuals who are hospitalized, healthcare workers, first responders, those living in congregate facilities such as nursing homes, senior living, or group homes, those over the age of 60, and those with underlying medical conditions. Now, we've received a lot of calls from individuals that feel like they have it, or they just want to be tested just to confirm that they don't have it. And at this point, there is no cure and there is no vaccine. Again, we are treating folks. This is more of a treat for symptoms, and again, no cure. So it's best to stay home and monitor for symptoms for 14 days if you feel like you have COVID-19. Now, also in these times, especially for our most vulnerable populations, the elderly, those that may be living alone, It is important to ensure that we follow up with them. These may be loved ones, a neighbor or a friend, so I urge you just to call them. Follow up with them on a daily basis, just to see how they're doing, just to say hi. Call them to ensure that they have enough food, medicines, and to see if they need anything else. And the city can certainly help with some of these resources. And also call to say that you love them. Social isolation can lead to depression, and as I stated earlier, increased anxiety. There are resources out there. They can contact their PCP, their counselors, and they can call 211. Just know that help is available. As always, our public safety providers are working around the clock to ensure that all of our residents are safe. And as always, I am available. Deputy Chief Steve Sloan, who is our infection control officer, is available to answer any questions that you may have anytime, day or night. And on that note, I will forward it back to you, Mayor Foley, for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. And I just want to echo what the chief has said about checking on your neighbors, and all my messages that I've been sending out. Definitely just check in with your neighbors. A lot of our older residents have gone into self-quarantine to just try to stay away. And so we want to try to check in with them, see if they need anything. Definitely if you can help and bring them groceries or something like that. A lot of Westbrook residents are already doing that. I bumped into Westbrook residents at the grocery store telling me they're picking up stuff for an older resident and helping them to get the things they need. So please do that as much as possible. The city is responding to those individuals as well with organizations we've partnered with, such as Westbrook Housing, like the chief outlined, as well as Meals on Wheels and the Westbrook Food Pantry. So if those resources are anyone in need, it's definitely important to reach out to those organizations to assist. So I did want to, before Chief Turcotte, I think I don't have any questions specifically related to you. So if you have to go, we completely understand. But I had a couple of questions I wanted to quickly address. The first question we got on Facebook Live was, are the basketball courts shut down? And so the answer to that question is yes. We did that in conjunction with Governor Mills' order last week in preventing gatherings of 10 or more people. And so we closed all city parks and athletic facilities. And when I say parks, I mean play structures. So passively, people can still walk through Riverbank Park and things like that. We just ask that people don't gather. So the play structures, which aren't able to be sanitized, and basketball where people are in close proximity, passing a ball around, those aren't the safest things to be doing under the CDC guidelines. So the basketball courts and athletic facilities and play structures have all been closed, as well as outside structures such as a gazebo and picnic tables and things like that. Those are all closed in order to best protect everyone's safety. The other concern that seems to have been brought over, let me try to fix the video here, is the fact that some residents have contacted me and said that these meetings are great, though they're not accessible by people who aren't able to use Zoom or Facebook, and they absolutely are. All these meetings are recorded, and they are being rebroadcast on our cable TV channels, and they're also recorded and able to be rewatched on the city's webpage and through YouTube and Vimeo, and can be watched after the fact on Facebook as well. So they are recorded and they are shared on the city's TV channel. And so we appreciate the work of our marketing communication staff and TV manager to be able to get those items out to the public for those who aren't able to tune in through these technological ways. So we appreciate everyone's understanding as we try to work through this technology and do our best to communicate to the public. Unfortunately, we don't have a direct line to Channel 6 like they do in Portland and like the CDC does. So we're trying our best to be able to educate everyone as best as possible in Westbrook. It's great to see that we've got almost 100 people on Facebook Live and 33 people here in the Zoom joining us and the panelists here. So we appreciate everyone's patience during that time. So Next, I'll invite Dr. Peter Lancia, the superintendent of schools, to just address us on some of the schools, what the schools are doing. I'd like to applaud him and his team. We in Westbrook are way ahead of other communities as far as educating their students in the absence, as well as feeding students. That's something that other school districts are just starting this week, and we already were ahead on that. So I applaud Dr. Lancia and his team of administrators for getting that going. But I'll invite him to tell us a little bit about what he's doing. We talked on Friday about some of the changes we made to the feeding of students, and he'll talk a little bit more about that and talk about the things they're offered. Dr. Lancia, go ahead.
Great, thanks, Mayor Foley. Nice to see everyone through this platform. We miss you. We miss having everyone with us. Miss all of our students during this really odd time. I just want to say what an incredible community we have. The way that this community has been working together to support not just the needs of our students, but the needs of our residents throughout the last couple of weeks has been really incredible. I hope everyone realizes how special this community is, especially when we have an event like this, and we all need to work together to make it better and to make it through. Just a couple of those quick updates. As you know, our schools are now closed through April 27th. That's the Monday after April vacation. All of our facilities are closed to the public and are right now only staffed by a very small number of essential personnel, namely custodians, food service workers, bus drivers, some administrators, office staff, but a very few people are actually working on site right now. We are complying with the governor's request that we work remotely. We're all getting used to that. That's a different kind of experience, trying to work online like this and trying to work from our homes. I certainly appreciate what a number of our families are going through, trying to work from home themselves and working with their own children at home. We'll all get used to this, but it's something that we all need to do for the common good, for the good of the whole public. If you need to get in touch with anyone at the schools, we are working. We're all here. We're not on vacation. The best way to communicate right now really is through email, if you can. If you need to call us, you can call the administrative offices, 854-0800. We do have our phone being answered remotely by one of our administrative assistants. She will take a message and will triage that to whoever you need to be speaking with. If it's me or if it's anyone in my office or any one of our schools, she'll be able to do that. And she will be on the phone or able to pick up calls during business hours, which we're listing as 8 to 3. So you can still call this administrative office number for any phone information. Otherwise, best way to get in touch with us is by email. We are deep into distance learning, and again, thank you to our students and their families, and especially our teachers and staff who are making this work. It's evolving on a daily basis, and now that we're really in this for a marathon rather than a sprint, we'll be making some changes to the way that we continue to teach and continue to learn. But just would want to remind all of our students and their families, please be in touch with your child's teachers if you have any questions whatsoever about how to make the platform work or how to turn in assignments or the expectations that there are every day. Please be in touch. We are going to be posting on the district's webpage as well as each individual school web pages a parent's guide to Google Classroom and Google Meets, which are the two primary means that we're using to conduct distance learning, so that parents will have an opportunity to go online and do a quick training on how to navigate Google, which may not be something that you've done before. So that will be coming along shortly. I'm really pleased to report that the changes we made this week in our school nutrition program have been pretty successful. As you know, we have reduced the number of distribution sites to just one site. We're only distributing at the Vocational Center, WRVC, which is behind Westbrook High School on Vocational Drive. We'll be distributing Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can certainly come there, come curbside. We'll bring meals out to your car. A number of local organizations and individuals have donated additional food to distribute. Like today, there were some jugs of milk that were donated by a resident to give out to folks, and we really appreciate that too. That'll continue 11 to 1, Monday through Friday. If you can't come to WRVC, you can go online and request a meal to be delivered to your home. There's a very simple form to fill out where you just list the number of meals you need, the address you want food delivered to, and a phone number for contact. If you don't have access or you can't go online or would rather make a phone call to request meals, you can do that as well. You just call my office, 854-0800, press 0, and you'll leave a message giving that same information. All of that is assembled every morning. We ask that you make that order by 8 a.m. so that our staff can compile the information, prepare the number of meals, organize them for distribution, and we start delivering those meals between 10:30 and 11 o'clock. Given the number of meals each day, it might take a couple hours to get all the meals delivered, but we certainly will make sure that every meal is delivered. And if for some reason we miss a residence or miss an order, please call us and we will make sure that meal gets delivered to you. Our school nutrition director, Mary Emerson, was delivering meals yesterday afternoon that were ordered late or were missed. So please let us know. On Monday, we distributed over 500 meals, which is amazing. Yesterday, even though there was a little hesitancy, I think, with the snowstorm, we still delivered about 400 meals. We are very happy to be providing that service for our families. So please make sure you reach out for any meals that you would like to receive. And I'll just echo really quick what Chief Turcotte said about the importance of being in contact with each other. Even though we're practicing social distancing and even though we're being respectful of the governor's requests and of common sense to really be cautious of our own health and cautious of the health of others, it's so important that we maintain social connections. We make those phone calls to our friends, our relatives. We check in on our neighbors who are elderly or who may not be able to get out, our friends and neighbors who may be new to the country or new to the community, to make sure that they are okay and that they're able to access the services that we're providing. This isn't a time to turtle and to shelter in, but really to reach out in a variety of ways. We're really blessed to be able to use technology to do this in ways like this, but also in old-fashioned ways of just making sure that people are doing okay. One of those things will be happening today. I just got word a little while ago that our teachers, a number of our teachers at Sakarapa School, will be riding through the neighborhoods in a caravan, waving at kids and honking horns and celebrating them and letting them know how much we miss them, wishing a few kids happy birthdays, all at a distance, and some other schools are planning that as well. So it's important that we continue those social contacts however we can, because we don't want to be isolated. And if people are struggling, especially if our students are struggling, families, please reach out to our social service providers, our school social workers, our guidance counselors, to the administrators. We want to be there to support you and your children during this time. We're calling it the new normal, but it doesn't quite feel that yet. So if we can be of any help, we're here for you, and we're really proud to be working in the community of Westbrook.
Thank you, Dr. Lancia. We have a couple of school-related questions that have come in while we are on here, and the one I think a couple of them are from Counselor Claude Reganje. So we appreciate you tuning in, Claude, to inquire. The first question is, how are teachers checking with students to see if they are doing their work and if they have access to the school materials?
Mm-hmm. We have teachers who are checking in with kids and families regularly. We do have an attendance policy that we're trying to maintain. We want to make sure that our students are engaged. So we do have teachers who are checking in. If they haven't seen a student online or if they haven't heard from a student, we're making that personal contact. We are working diligently to try to make sure that our families have some sort of access to the online platforms. Not all of our families have Wi-Fi in their homes, and they don't have devices. We are working to make that more accessible every day, so that we can provide that. That's something that we're trying to make better. So we are working on that as an EL department, English language department, as well as our technology department. But again, we are reaching out to families on a regular basis. I know that as we changed our food program, our students' families were contacted by all of their ESL teachers on Friday, so that they understood what was happening. So we'll continue to do that to make sure that our families understand and have information at their fingertips.
Thank you, Dr. Lancia. The other question is, what is the school doing for kids with no computers and internet?
Mm-hmm. We're working to make that better. We know that some families don't have that. We still have a number of families that don't have access to Wi-Fi or don't have devices in their homes. We are working for a solution on that. When we went out of school, we decided a week ago Monday that school would be closed. Our teachers prepared a number of different platforms, including the online platform and some paper packets. Those paper packets are still being used. We ask teachers to have 2 weeks worth of work, especially at the elementary level, so students can still use those. We've also surveyed our students and their families at the high school and middle school to see how widespread the use of technology is, or the access to technology is. Overall, we have at our high school and middle school pretty good access because of our one-to-one computing at grades 5 through 12. We're continuing to check in on the needs of our elementary students, so that as we keep moving along with our distance learning platform, we will be able to ensure that our students have as much opportunity as we want them to have.
And I think you can confirm, Dr. Lancia, I think Spectrum was offering free internet to families who didn't have internet. Is that correct?
I know Spectrum has made an offer for that if families contact them, and I believe some other organizations are as well. I know there are some there are some initiatives that are being explored broadly, across the state and across the country, to look at access for families during this time, and we'll be trying to communicate that to all of our families as we become aware. With the Spectrum offer, it is a contract. You actually have to sign up for service, and they're promising free service for a certain amount of time. I would just urge families to know what they're signing, so that if it expires at some point, you know that you should cancel it before the free period expires. So just be aware of what that is. If families have any questions about that, feel free to email me or the principals, and we can put you in touch with our technology department. Our technology support staff is available. They have different office hours. They've been doing a lot of support for our teachers, but they can certainly be available to support our families as well. So please be in touch if you need to get in touch with us, or call us. Call the superintendent's office, and we'll get back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Lancia, on that one. There's another question for you. What are contingency plans for seniors as part of their senior year events?
I'm so worried about our seniors. Our seniors have worked so hard for 13 years in our schools, and this is not the end of senior year that any of us dreamed of. I have a son who's graduating senior this year in a different community, and we're going through the same thing. Just a lot of unknowns. Our co-principals, Wendy Harvey, Pat Colgan, and Jeff Garrett, have been working on what some of those contingency plans will look like, depending on the length of the closure. They've been kind of planning in the worst case scenario mode, so that we can see how will we still have a graduation celebration? How will we still have the senior events that we need to do? How will we still have induction for National Honor Society? All of those things, we're still ironing out the details. A lot of it depends on when we're able to come back and at what point we're able to gather in a large gathering, if we're able to gather at a large gathering. We still have Merrill Auditorium booked for graduation. We haven't canceled that. We haven't canceled any graduation-related dates yet. We're looking at what those plans might be. In fact, I'm meeting with the co-principals virtually tomorrow morning to see where we are in terms of progress, so that we can be in touch with families to make sure that we are honoring our seniors as they deserve to be honored, and celebrating our families for the hard work that they've been doing. I will say that our high school is doing an amazing job working with our seniors, those that are on track to graduate and those that are not quite on track to graduate, working with them to make sure there are some individual plans to help them complete courses, to help them complete credits, to help them be ready to complete the requirements on time. So they are working very closely with individual kids as well as with the entire senior class to make sure that they're ready to graduate, and we'll be ready to announce plans, any contingency plans for the celebrations, hopefully soon.
Thank you, Dr. Lancia. The other question is, to get meals through the school, do they have to fill out the request every day or just once?
Oh, they can fill it out just once. If they want to go in and request meals every day during the closure, request it once, and we'll make sure you get a lunch every day. Some people are doing it week by week, just depending on what their plans are. But however you want to do that, if you want to request it day to day, if you want to request it week by week, or for the entire time, we'll take orders in any way you want to give them to us. We just want to make sure our kids are fed.
Thank you, Dr. Lancia. I think that concludes our questions related to the school. If you want to hang out in case we get any more, if you have time, if you've got to run, we won't be offended. We know that you're very busy. I did have a couple of other questions that I just wanted to try to answer before we get transitioned over. I think we'll go to Dan Stevenson in a moment. One of the questions on Facebook was, how long do people in Westbrook need to stay in their house? We kind of addressed this in the beginning. Westbrook does not currently have a shelter-in-place order like the city of Portland does, nor does any other community surrounding Portland. Portland, that's something Portland chose to do on their own, separate from what Governor Mills had ordered. And as I talked about at the beginning, residents of Westbrook really have been doing a good job at remaining and using appropriate physical distancing practices and remaining in their homes if they don't need to be, and going out to go shopping and to get food to support local businesses and things of that nature. Most of the workplaces in the area have closed and are working remotely as possible, except for a few of them that have essential services that are part of the governor's order. So the governor did order non-essential businesses to close, and so those have done so as effective of 12:01 in the morning this morning. So we don't have that in place. The other question regarding that same on Facebook was, being a direct neighbor to Portland, why is the shelter in place not going to affect? Again, Portland has different challenges. They have a very large downtown. If you go to downtown Westbrook, there's nobody walking around. There's not very many people parked other than the ones that are visiting our downtown businesses to get food and support their families as best as possible. So, that is something Portland chose to do on their own. As I said at the beginning, we've been relying upon Governor Mills and Dr. Shah from the CDC to provide us direct mandates of this magnitude. Again, it's not something I feel like we should really have a community by community situation regarding this, but unfortunately, that's something that Portland chose to do in conjunction with their city manager, mayor, and city council. And so at this point, it's nothing that our coronavirus task force has suggested we do, as well as Chief Turcotte spoke to that a little bit as part of his message. I did get another school-related question, but we'll wait till Dr. Lancia comes back. I think he stepped out. The other question on Facebook, and we answered it on Facebook, but we just want to let everybody know that They asked how to sign up for city emails. And if you go to westbrookmaine.com and click notify me link on the homepage, that will get you the ability to sign up, and you'll receive some of the notifications that are being sent out. Also, there's a link there to our coronavirus specific page. So the other thing that we've been doing here in the city of Westbrook is trying our best to support our small businesses, specifically our restaurants and food establishments. And so we very early on, we established a method where we were gathering information to learn about what businesses were still open and posting that on our city website. And we really are relying upon the business owner to provide us that information and provide us those updates. Unfortunately, we don't have the staff to go around and search social media to see what business is open and what business is closed. So we just ask that businesses who are doing that to provide that update to our marketing and communication staff, who will be updating those lists, so that residents know what businesses are open and what they're doing, whether it be delivery or drive up, and what you can do to help them and what they're offering. So definitely check for updates there, and business owners, please provide updates as much as you can. And then also we announced our business relief and support effort to try to help businesses, Westbrook's takeout and delivery support effort to try and encourage residents to support businesses with a prize at the end. And I'll now turn it over to Dan Stevenson to talk a little bit more about those programs, as well as some potential programs that are out there to help businesses. Businesses and organizations, we've had a lot of requests. As it turns out, the city isn't as equipped as the federal and state government, more the federal government, to be able to just offer bailouts and grants and loans to businesses to help them through this difficult time. And so we really need to rely upon our federal and state leaders, and we'll have our State Representative Drew Gattine to talk more about some state stuff momentarily. But Dan's going to tell us a little bit more about some of the resources that are available that we've talked about in recent lives, and also just to update everyone on things that are going. Dan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Mayor Foley. And what you just suggested is right on target. So I appreciate the opportunity to share what we have right now. In terms of financial resources, I will start by talking a little bit of what's happening at the federal level, very briefly at the state level, because Representative Gattine is one of the panelists, and he will be better, a great ability to address that than I. And also go into a little bit more detail on what we're doing locally, especially to support the local eateries. So first, many people are already aware Congress struck a $2 trillion stimulus deal at the early morning hours this morning to support businesses negatively affected by COVID-19, as well as to mitigate job losses. Keep in mind that it still requires the Senate and the House to vote on the bill, and then the president to sign it. So there's going to be more detail coming out, but I will let you know what we know to date. Approximately $250 billion will be made in direct payments to individuals. I'll spend just an extra moment on that. Approximately $500 billion to loans to distressed companies, $350 billion to loans to small businesses, $250 billion for unemployment insurance benefits, $50 billion to passenger air carriers, $130 billion to hard-hit hospitals, and $150 billion to cash-strapped state and local governments. Also, the Small Business Administration, also known as SBA, will act as a loan guarantor for $10 billion of small business loans, which will be used to pay operating capital. For those who don't know what that is, that's payroll and debt service that's accruing with a lot of their closed businesses. Also, as part of the bill, there's a tax credit for businesses offering coronavirus related paid leave. Again, more detail will follow. So for those listening, what is the $250 billion in direct payments to individuals? Essentially, what is that? For single Americans with an adjusted gross income of $75,000, will receive a check in the amount of $1,200 and $500 for each child under 17. For married couples with an adjusted gross income of $150,000, will receive a check in the amount of $2,400 with $500 for each child under the age of 17. For single Americans with adjusted gross incomes between $75,000 and $99,000, will receive a lesser amount. With those over $99,000 will not receive a check. For those thresholds are doubled for couples without children, and that would be $198,000. It could take a few months for the checks to be received, and perhaps more quickly for electronic payments. I would like to see the bill get signed and passed into law first. The bill that get passed. Also, the income numbers are based from those who filed their 2019 federal tax returns. If those have not filed yet, it will be based on their 2018 federal tax returns. This year's filing deadline for the federal filing was moved to July 15th of this year. With respect to state support, with the new designations for essential service designation that the governor had moved forward, if you go to maine.gov website and you feel that you're an essential service, there's a form you can fill out and submit. There's a link to it right at that site. Also, there's a link to financial resources in response to COVID-19 related closure and economic disruption. That talks about any resources that are available through FAME and through Maine DOL, and Maine DOL specific for unemployment benefits. And certainly Rep. Gattin can probably add more detail to any of that. In terms of local support, the takeout and delivery list update, it will be updated daily for any eatery that remains open for takeout and delivery service in the city of Westbrook. Please go to the City of Westbrook's website and fill out the form. You can just go to the coronavirus page and scroll down to business resources, and right there, click on the link and fill that out. If any of your hours, if you're already listed in any of those hours change and dates will be open, please just make those changes and resubmit that. Also, with respect to Westbrook's takeout and delivery support effort, starting on Monday, the 30th, and each consecutive Monday, we will do $100 gift card drawings that support our eateries. So anyone who, please save your receipts for any eateries you go to in the city of Westbrook. And when you hit $100 worth, you can take a photo and you can upload that right to the same location of the website. There's a separate link for you to choose, and we will do a draw for a winner. This does two things. One, it's a way for the city of Westbrook to support a number of our eateries with $100 gift cards, but at the same time, it encourages the public to spend some of those dollars in supporting our local eateries. You know, if we can get 150 people to do this, that'll pump $15,000 into our local economy specific to our eateries. It's very important with the restaurant business because eateries, restaurants, they tend to be cash businesses. So the longer they're closed, really the more difficult that is. I certainly do not want to downplay any other business that is hurting or suffering because of the closures. We will continue to put our creative hats on to think how to coordinate resources both at the federal, state, and local level to support as many businesses as possible. But that is what we have right now. Any other businesses that are truly struggling, want to, you know, any information directly linked to them, if they reach out to me, they can email me, and I will create a business email list as well. And any updates we have, we'll just continue to blast it on a daily basis.
Thank you, Dan. And Dan's kind of like our in-house legislative expert. So also thank you for the updates from the federal level of things that are happening to help folks. And then anything we can do to help businesses navigate challenges and just use our brain power to provide advice and resources, we would be happy to do that. Like I said, unfortunately, we don't have funds available to help businesses in that manner, and we truly are relying upon our federal and state governments to help us in that, and they have. Governor Mills was one of the first governors to step up and get the Small Business Administration to approve the loan cycle for this emergency. And so we definitely appreciate their efforts. And as Dan outlined, some things will be available to help businesses in our the new federal legislation. Did you have something to add, Dan?
If I could just add, right now, I'm not seeing any grants or forgivable loans. That's something we would certainly like to see come forward, because in some cases, loans, you know, will help a little bit, but not as much as needed. But any of those changes, we will make sure that's readily available.
Thank you, Dan. And as I've mentioned in other Facebook Lives, that we have a city website dedicated to this, and a lot of that information is available on there, as what Dan has mentioned. So one of the things, before I go back to a question that for Dr. Lancia before we transition over to Representative Gattin, a couple of things wanted to offer for businesses. Thank you. They offered a thank you to the printing company that posted they would give out business banners, and that is Full Court Press, and we thank them for their efforts to help businesses. So if you are a business and you're offering takeout and want your phone number, they're able to do that. And Full Court Press is a long-term Westbrook business, and their owners, Ed Simbel and Jerry Sands, have been great community members, and we appreciate their effort to help local businesses during this difficult time. And I want to quickly thank Council President Reardon. He's been going on Facebook Live through different means to show the ability to support local businesses on a daily basis. I thank him for doing that, because I haven't had a chance to, though I've been doing my best to support local businesses. I've been going to the Daily Grind drive-through as much as possible. Mr. Bagel today to get some bagel chips. Today we had lunch from Blazes Burgers. Someone pointed out that they're open again. They were closed last week, and so they're able to support folks. And then River's Edge Deli is open and able to support folks. So those are some businesses that I get to on my route here to City Hall to try to serve you as best as possible. So definitely check those. I know there's many other businesses open, and those are on that list. I know a few of them have closed. Unfortunately, business owners have had to make tough decisions to be able to protect the health and safety of their employees and be able to support their business. And so some of them have chosen to close, and we wish them the best, and hope they're able to open back up either at a later time or when this crisis stops. So Dr. Lancia, there was a question that said, if for the schools related, if distance learning goes long term and school openings get pushed until fall, is there going to be a plan in place for the children that will be entering kindergarten?
The children who will be entering kindergarten, is that what you said, Mike?
Yeah, that question was, and school openings get pushed into the fall, is there going to be a plan in place for the children who will be entering kindergarten in the fall are prepared to do so?
Mm-hmm. We would certainly be ready to welcome next year's kindergartners. I know that process has already begun. We haven't had any new registrations for kindergarten for next fall since we've been closed, but we will be preparing to welcome them in the fall, regardless of when we're able to go back. One of the things that we need to do as a faculty is look at our learning standards. We want to make sure that all of our students are achieving well. We also need to understand where our students are. So whenever we do come back to school, we'll be making sure that our students are on track. We'll be conducting assessments to make sure that our students are maintaining progress, and we'll be doing the same for our incoming kindergartners. But at this point, I wouldn't see any reason why our class of, I think it's our class of 2033, wouldn't be ready to start with us.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lancia, for answering that. That came in on Facebook Live. The other question that came in that initially to what Dan was telling us, the question was, will Americans working or retired be getting a federal check? I think the best thing to do is, we don't know the entire details of this legislation. And again, it's still, I don't believe at this hour, has been voted on by our Congress. And so there's potential that there could be a stimulus check. It's income based. And so Dan went over some of those details, but I definitely would just try to pay attention to releases from news releases regarding that specific bill and what you may or may not get for an economic stimulus check during this difficult time. So with that, again, we're still going to be here as long that I know we have this only queued up for an hour, but we're still going to be here as long as we need. We're going to invite State Representative Drew Gattin to talk about some of the work that the state legislature did in the final hours of their legislative session, and some of the stuff that the state's offering to help employees with unemployment and things of that nature. And then again, we'll still be here to take questions and answers for any of these related subjects that we've talked about. And with that, I'll turn it over to Representative Drew Gattin. Thank you for joining us, Drew.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Foley. And again, I very much appreciate, I've been listening in over the last couple of weeks as the city has done these Facebook Live events, Westbrook Live events. And I think they're very informative, and I appreciate the opportunity to participate this afternoon. I just want to start out by saying, as you alluded to, the legislature anticipated being in session until the middle of April, but because of the events with respect to the coronavirus, we have now adjourned as of last Tuesday night. And all 151 members of the Maine House of Representatives and all 35 members of the Maine Senate are now back in their communities and are, like me, spending the bulk of their time trying to address the concerns of their constituents as we try to get our constituents and our communities through this very, very difficult time. So I am now home in Westbrook. I am appropriately social distancing like the rest of you. But I certainly am here primarily at this point to address any concerns that my constituents have and that the city has and businesses have. Should feel absolutely free to reach out to me through email, through phone, through social media, and use me as a resource as we try to work through all of these issues. One of the things that I can certainly be helpful with is trying to connect with resources, and particularly at the state. All of us as state legislators have liaisons that we work with in the respective state agencies. We're doing a weekly meeting with Dr. Shah at the CDC that is specific to Maine legislators. Yesterday, we had a phone conference with Commissioner Fortman at the Maine Department of Labor, again, to address concerns that, and a lot of the questions obviously are around unemployment insurance. But again, all of the various agencies of state government are working very hard to address the needs of Maine people. And as legislators, we all have contacts there. So people should absolutely feel free to reach out to me and our two state senators, Senator Heather Sanborn and Senator Kathy Breen, who also represent Westbrook in the legislature. I think the mayor covered the recent events with respect to the governor's executive order regarding the closing of non-essential businesses and rules for businesses that are staying open. I won't really talk anymore about that, but again, I certainly have the ability to track down answers to any questions that people have. I just want to cover really quickly the work that we did before we adjourned on Tuesday night. So we had a marathon session last Tuesday. Again, we were basically preparing to adjourn 4 weeks earlier than we expected. There was a lot of work that was left undone and was still left undone when we adjourned. We were hoping to be able to come back and complete our work when everybody feels that it's safe to do so. But we did act on a number of emergency measures before we adjourned. We did pass one large COVID response bill. As people know, the governor has declared a state of emergency. This gives her some very broad and specific emergency powers. But in addition to those emergency powers, we created a consumer loan guarantee program that's financed through the Finance Authority of Maine. If people need details around that, I can certainly get them for you. The bill that we passed expanded eligibility for unemployment benefits for people impacted by COVID-19. So again, when it comes to supporting people and their employment situation, there's things that we've done at the state level. And then there are also, as Dan mentioned, some very important measures apparently in this new stimulus package regarding an expansion of unemployment insurance. I know there are a lot of questions around that, and again, I can certainly be a resource to helping people answer those questions. We authorized the Maine Department of Education to waive school day requirements and to continue school lunch programs, important for our education department here in Westbrook. Part of the bill now allows public meetings to occur via telephone, video, or electronic means, so long as the public can still listen in. And I know that Our city council has already taken advantage of that and held at least one meeting via Zoom. The bill gives the governor the authority to prohibit essential utilities from cutting off service during this time of emergency. And we also granted the governor an additional sum of $11 million in state funds specific to COVID response. One of the other things that we did before we left is that we passed an emergency supplemental budget. We'd had a budget proposed to us from the governor. What we passed on Tuesday night was much smaller than what the governor had originally proposed, because we really kept it narrowly tailored and focused on things that we thought were really true emergencies, knowing that one of the impacts of this entire crisis is going to be a negative economic impact to the state that will probably impact state revenues. But again, we did do a number of important things. We allocated $43 million for education. The majority of that is going to go to K through 12 education. So again, to support to certainly support the ability of Westbrook to have the money that they were counted on from the state of Maine to support K through 12 education. We appropriated an additional $20 million for urgent healthcare needs. About $15 million of this is going to go for home care services for seniors and people with disabilities and children who have unmet mental health needs. Some additional money for public health nurses. And then we put an additional $17 million into the state's reserves, what's commonly referred to as the rainy day fund, in order to, again, make sure that we've got some reserves as we take what is certain to be a revenue hit as we move forward and see the impact that this crisis has had on the economy. It is very, very hard to measure what that impact is going to be. Fortunately, the state has more money in reserves now than it probably has ever had at any time in its history. I expect that we're going to need all that money as we try to weather this storm. So again, I would certainly reach out to me with any questions. I know the city's doing a lot to address the needs of Westbrook people from the food insecurity side, from the small business side. There are a lot of state resources and other organizations who are doing a lot of work. We have our food pantry here. I know the United Way, Opportunity Alliance, all these other local agencies that do a lot of work in our communities are also continuing, to pull an even greater laboring oar in order to address the needs of Westbrook people. If people need information about that, they should definitely contact me. My phone number for people who don't have it is 409-3477. My personal email is dgatine@gmail.com. But again, social media is also a really good way to message me and to reach me. So I look forward to participating in these types of events with the city in the future. But in the meantime, people should just let me know what kind of help they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gatine. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll definitely include you in the future as we continue to update everyone. We've had a couple of comments. Just thank you for keeping us informed. And as Representative Gatine talked about, the state funding challenges are going to exist due to this economic crisis, and those apply to the city as well. And so that's why the city is being very appropriate response to this. We've enacted a spending freeze as previously announced, and we're working to essentially hit the pause button on our municipal budgeting process until we have a direction of where things are going to go. One of our significant revenues that's not associated with the property tax is municipal revenue sharing, as well as auto vehicle excise tax, both of which will take a hit with the economy. People won't be purchasing new vehicles and increasing those auto excise tax, and also the sales and income tax will decline during this. So we are, talking about our budget, but I think at this point, we're going to have to hit the pause button and get back to the drawing board. Given these tough challenges that businesses and individuals are facing, I'm not sure. I don't think it would be appropriate for us to have any sort of tax increase in the municipal budget, and we will be working with the city council to develop a process to be able to do that. Thankfully, as Drew mentioned with the state, the city does have reserves and appropriate fund balances, which are designed exactly for crises like these when the city it will potentially have financial issues or cash flow issues that aren't caused by anything, by anyone in particular. So we appreciate everyone's patience as we work through that process. I think one of the questions that we had online, I don't know if Drew knows the answer to this. I heard Governor Mills speak to this yesterday, but they asked, can Drew talk about whether the state will delay income tax for the state? And I think Governor Mills was disappointed that the federal government had done that. So I'm not sure what the state is looking to do on that, if you know.
Sure. So the short answer is I don't think the state has made a decision yet. I spoke to Commissioner Figueroa, who is the Commissioner of Administrative and Financial Services. She has oversight over Maine Revenue Services. As we all know, the federal government has put a 3-month delay on the filing deadline. Obviously, for a lot of reasons, it would make sense for the state to follow what the federal government is doing. A lot of people don't do their state return until they do it concurrently with doing their federal return. I think the consideration that the state is looking at right now, again, is what the impact that would be on state revenue. Again, as I think we all know, the state does not have the ability like the federal government does of running a deficit. We have to have a balanced state budget. Also, unlike the federal government, where the fiscal year ends at the end of September, the state fiscal year ends on July 1st. So I just think they're trying to evaluate the impact of taking what is anticipated to be a large chunk of state revenue that is supposed to show up this fiscal year and pushing that into the next fiscal year. But I would expect that we're going to get a decision from the state on that very shortly.
Well, thank you, Drew, for the update on that. I think that's all we have for questions. We'll just wait a moment. If anyone has any questions on the Zoom, feel free to submit those. If anyone has any on Facebook Live, we have someone monitoring that and submitting those to us to be able to answer. But, again, like Drew talked about with the state, we are strong as a state, we are strong as a city, and I think at the end of the day, we're all going to end up stronger. We are able to make changes to our lives to better prepare for situations like this. And there's opportunity that comes out of every situation, and we're able to try to do our best as possible as city and school organizations to best meet the needs of our community as best as possible. So we thank you for everyone who's tuned in today. I think we've had close to 100 people tuned in collectively on the Zoom and on Facebook Live. And like I've stated, these Zooms and Facebook Lives are being recorded and uploaded to the city website and are also being replayed on our TV channel. For those who haven't been following, there's a potential that those channels will be moving back to channel 2 and 3. So we'll keep everybody updated on those. But right now they're, I believe it's 1302 and 1303. I may be wrong. Our TV manager, Barry, may correct me at the moment. But these things are all being replayed. It's 1301 and 1302. I was close. So these videos are being replayed on those pages, on those channels, so people can watch them after the fact. And then, as Dr. Lancia talked about, they're going to be trying to do some school-related things as well that hopefully we may be able to record for our school folks and potentially broadcast those as well. So thank you again to everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Lancia, Chief Turcotte, Representative Gattin, and Dan Stevenson for joining me today. again, this is a fluid situation. As the situation updates, we'll try to, at least in written form, educate any changes we've made as soon as possible, and then try to get follow up with a Facebook Live like this and Zoom Live to get everyone up to date as soon as possible on how things are happening here in the city of Westburg. Thank you, everyone. Again, help your neighbors out, work together, do your best to physical distance while also have a social life with people either on social media or on the phone and things like that, because that's very important to our mental health and well-being. And hope everyone has a good day and a good weather is ahead so we can enjoy that. Have a good one.